Call the meeting to order. Sandra, you want to call the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Courtney League as designee for Secretary Chaudhry.
Here.
Mr. Derenberg.
Here.
Vice Chair Eberhardt.
Here.
Chuck Boyd as designee for Secretary Flora.
Here.
Mr. Kathari is absent. Ms. Lala is present. Krishna Talur as designee for Dr. Wright.
Present.
And Chair Casemeyer.
Here. Thank
You have
you.
a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Appreciate it. We have any public comments?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Alex, you want to give us your report, please?
Sure. Thank you. And good morning to you, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the Commission. It's very good to see you this morning. First, I'm happy to report that all the spaces within Western Port Elementary School in Allegheny County that were damaged last year in the flood reopened last week for use, and the school community is very happy about the restoration to the building. Allegheny County Public Schools has scheduled a reopening celebration for May 2nd. And with regard to Williamsport High School in Washington County, which had the asbestos contamination issue, the school is fully open and operational now, and Washington County Public Schools will let us know in coming weeks whether they intend to submit a request for any emergency funding to help defray any remediation costs. Next, I'll provide an update about the fiscal 2027 budget and current legislative session. The good news is that yesterday morning, Governor Moore signed the state operating budget bill, state capital budget bill, and the budget reconciliation and financing bill, known as the BRFA. I'm very happy to report that school construction funding has now weathered the second year in a row of major state budget cuts without being reduced below the legislative target of $450 million set in law in 2022. This obviously is not the increase that I have been advocating for, but considering the fiscal context, it is another win. Sadly, Senate Bill 934 and House Bill 1329, which are the bipartisan bills that would have increased the legislative target by $100 million, each appear to have died in committee. But I do have hope that they will be reintroduced next year, which will not be an election year. It's also wonderful that the General Assembly's and Governor's appropriations to the IAC programs have been finalized a bit earlier than in some past years, giving IAC staff a reasonable span of time in which to make the required adjustments to the staff recommendations for the 100% CIP awards, to share those draft recommendations with the LEAs, to finalize the recommendations, and then provide them to you for review in time before your meeting next month on the 14th of May. The other good news is that the IAC's 2026 departmental bill, SB 48, was passed by the Senate with acceptable amendments and then was adopted favorably on second reading by the House yesterday. As we previously received Governor Moore's approval on the content, I can say that the bill appears on track for passage by the General Assembly and for signature by Governor Moore, hopefully in the coming month, so that IAC staff can provide advance notice to LEAs of the resulting updates to policy that will take effect as of July 1st. The not as good news is that the capital budget as amended and signed yesterday made some changes late in the annual process cycle that significantly affect the IAC's COP Priority Fund and Enrollment Growth and Relocatable Classrooms Fund. Specifically, the capital budget directs specified amounts from the COP Priority Fund to be awarded in fiscal 2027 to 6 named LEAs and leaves a small amount available to projects from the rest of the LEAs. The budget also modifies the EGRC formula to shift funds between LEAs such that 7 LEAs will receive fewer EGRC dollars than previously projected, and 6 other LEAs will receive more EGRC dollars. IAC staff are taking 2 actions in response. First, we're publishing notice today to all of the LEAs regarding these changes. And second, because the EGRC and CIP dollars are applied together within the CIP, IAC staff are reaching out to the affected LEAs to discuss the required changes and to adjust the 100% CIP recommendations accordingly, which we'll bring to you next month for your approval. Well, actually in advance of the meeting, but for your approval at next month's meeting. Next, I'll report briefly on the status of the Built to Learn program. If in our meeting today you approve Howard County's Built to Learn construction funding request for its Oakland Mills Middle School replacement project, the IAC will have awarded 1.6 billion, or 93% of the total BTL fund of 1.7 billion. That means that only 113 million remains unawarded, with about 33 million of that reserved for Montgomery County, 70 million of that reserved for Howard County, and the small remaining amount is held for Dorchester and Queen Anne's counties. Finally, I'm pleased to report that as a part of the IAC's efforts to convert its publications and website to be more accessible in compliance with federal law, we have adopted a new IAC meeting agenda format that's much more readable by screen and document readers. Compliance will require us to limit the amount of backup documentation from the amounts that we historically included in the meeting agendas, because it would be difficult or near impossible to cost effectively make some types of backup documentation accessible. In light of this, we will be omitting those documents from the agendas, which will make the agendas less unwieldy. And we'll be making those backup documents available to the public upon request. With specific regard to the many tables of data that we must place into our agendas, we're working to create Excel versions that will be downloadable and easily readable using accessibility tools. This concludes my executive director's report for today, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Alex. Any questions for Alex? A lot to report today, some of it not good. Okay, thank you, Alex. The consent agenda. Anything you want to comment on, Alex? We need to
No, this month's consent agenda contains several routine items: revision to COMAR amendments approved at last month's meeting, reversion of funds for 2 school districts, and a few facility status changes. No comments in addition.
do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda? Mr. Darrenberg makes a motion. Ms. Everhart seconds. All in favor say aye. Or raise your hand. Any opposed? Thank you. Item 3, Administrative Procedures Guide Amendments. Cassandra.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, members. You all probably remember that we did our first major overhaul of the IAC's Administrative Procedures Guide in literally decades, and that was approved last May. After almost a year of use, we've identified a handful of improvements that we're recommending for clarity and to best direct our limited state funds to projects in the most meaningful and equitable way. Of course, as Alex just mentioned, we're also working on accessibility changes. There is a summary of the changes that we're recommending on page 29 of your agenda, and a lot of them are changes that you've already seen and adopted through COMAR changes. So I won't talk about each of them individually. A lot of them are really just to streamline or clarify and aren't substantive changes. But there are a couple of improvements that I do want to note, and those are the ones specifically in section 3. The first is that this draft APG puts into writing something that we are already doing, which is considering pre-K enrollment separately from K-5 enrollment when we're looking at enrollment eligibility for a project. It is appropriate to do that in some cases, and I would note that this is a may, not a shall. So in the cases where it's appropriate to do that, the IAC does. And it's important because not all classrooms can be used as pre-K classrooms. So we're specifically looking at whether available spaces in project schools can accommodate pre-K students when we're considering the eligible enrollment for the school. This is especially important because of the enactment of Blueprint, which of course increases the amount of pre-K. And because the IAC has a statutory requirement to prioritize projects that create pre-K capacity. We have also added more detail around scope studies that can be conducted and submitted in lieu of feasibility studies for certain project scopes. That's an improvement for the LEAs who may not need to do a full feasibility study for a project. And the biggest change is about renovation projects. So remember that the IAC defines renovation as being less than a renewal or a full modernization of a school. So this change would make a project ineligible for state funding, a renovation project ineligible for state funding, if it's estimated to cost more than 75% of what the IAC would calculate as the maximum state award for a renewal project for the eligible enrollment of that school. The IAC prorates awards for full replacement or renewal projects based upon eligible enrollment. But for a renovation project, which is what we're talking about, the full square footage of a facility is eligible for renovation funding regardless of the utilization of the school. This change will require that if the cost exceeds 75% of a modernization project, that the LEAs justify that high cost to the IAC, and the IAC would have to review and approve the renovation project. We believe that this is really necessary in light of the limited state funds that are available, especially compared to the vast amount of need that exists in our school facilities. So with that said, I will read the motion, Mr. Chair, which is to approve amendments to the IAC's Administrative Procedures Guide as presented. And I can stand for questions.
Ms. Everhart?
Yes, two questions. Everyone gets this a week ahead of time. Have you gotten anything from the locals that they have any issues with what you're proposing?
No, we have not heard anything back, Ms. Everhart.
And the second thing is you have eliminated that section about science classrooms, not for renovation. It appears that we don't care about science classrooms and upgrading that. So I'm sure that there's some place in there just to explain that.
Yes, Ms. Everhart.
Science classrooms.
Thank
Good
you so
question.
much for that question. Science classrooms used to be a separate category of project that had its own requirements. For the last several years, IAC has been approving any improvements to science classrooms just through our regular renovation projects. So it definitely is not that we don't care. It's just that that category of project is no longer needed.
Thank you for the clarification.
Would someone like to make a motion to continue the discussion on this? Mr. Katari, thank you. Second, Mr. Boyd. Any other questions about this issue? Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye or raise your hands. Any opposed? Thank you. Item 4, FY 2027 Capital Improvement Program Supplemental Survey. Hannah?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the Commission. The CIP Supplemental Information Survey gathers data on school facility topics that tend to be areas of concern for the public, the Commission, and staff at the IAC and LEAs. These topics are relocatable classrooms, open space classrooms, security vestibules, air conditioning, and staffing. This agenda item, which starts on page 111 of your agenda, includes data provided by all 24 LEAs and the Maryland School for the Blind. We have a long agenda ahead of us today, so I'll keep this presentation brief and share that statewide, most categories saw only routine changes related to the typical cycle of school construction projects. We did see a significant decrease in the number of open space classrooms in Prince George's County, from 106 reported last year to 39 this year. And while 5 LEAs still have no full-time equivalent staff in departments related to school construction, planning, design, and project management, overall we saw a slight increase in FTE staff of 9 people. This item is informational only, and I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Any questions for Hannah? Ms. Everhart?
Not a question. I thought this was very useful and helpful. I wondered about the maintenance of the schools, the central office maintenance. Do you track that? And do we get that at a different time when we're looking at the maintenance?
In regards to maintenance staffing or
Staffing.
maintenance staffing, that is not something that we ask in this survey. And we would have to check to see if that's something we track in the MEA, Alex, unless you are
Mr.
aware.
Chair, in response to the question about staffing, we ask every year that each LEA provide to us in their comprehensive maintenance plan data on a number of aspects of their maintenance programs, including the staffing, so that we can see what kind of staffing they have compared to the square footage that they must maintain. And we compare that to the standards, national standards for staffing of maintenance and operations. So we get that in a different document annually, and we do take a look at it rather than in this survey.
Okay. Okay, that was information only. Thank you very much, Shannon.
You're welcome.
Item 5, rather. Built to Learn Funding Award, Howard County Public School System, Oakland Mills Middle School, Renovation Addition Project. Sharon?
Good
Sharon?
morning, Mr. Chair,
Morning.
Madam Vice Chair, and members of the Commission. My name is Sharon Johnson. Joining me is Laura Smiles, the Capital Project Manager for Howard County Public Schools. Laura is available to respond to any project-specific questions. Howard County is requesting approval to use Build to Learn funding for the construction of the renovation and addition of Oakland Mills Middle School, for which the IAC previously approved $1.7 million in project development and design funding. The project scope pending approval today is based on a 55% state cost share, inclusive of the maintenance add-on. The final recommended Maryland State award, maximum state award for this project totals $7,166,000. Pending approval of this award, approximately $70.1 million in BTO funding will remain available for awards for additional Howard County Public School projects, anticipated to be submitted for the review and approval in the near term. IAC staffs recommend approval of this request as presented. Mr. Chair, permission to now read the motion.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. To approve Howard County Public Schools request for Build to Learn construction funding for the Oakland Mills Middle School renovation / addition totaling $5,424,000.
Thank you, Sharon. Do I hear a motion on this issue for purposes of discussion? Mr. Leagues makes a motion, Courtney, and Ms. Everhart seconds. Any discussion on the Oakland Mills Middle School project? All in favor say aye or raise your hand. Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 6, FY 2025 Capital Improvement Program Amendment Request, Dorchester County Public Schools. Laura?
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Morning.
And good morning to you, Madam Vice Chair and members of the Commission. In FY 2025 CIP Capital Improvement Program, Dorchester was awarded funding for early planning services for educational specifications and feasibility study development for 5 elementary schools. Funding was approved for a total of $500,000 to be distributed among 2 planning projects at $250,000 each. On March 18, 2026, IAC staff were notified that contract awards approved for reimbursement were not aligned with current billing on the 2 planning projects, and DCPS has requested to realign funds for these 2 projects accordingly. I will now read the motion, which is to reduce the FY 2025 Capital Improvement Program Award for Dorchester County Public Schools Dorchester Planning Project for Sandy Hill and Maple Schools from $250,000 to $223,675, and to increase the FY 2025 award for the Dorchester Planning Project for Warwick, Hurlock, Vienna Schools from $250,000 to $276,325.
Thank you, Laura.
Mhm.
For purposes of discussion, do I hear a motion on this item? Krishna makes a motion. Mr. Derenberg seconds. Discussion on Dorchester County. All in favor, say aye or raise your hands. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Laura. Item 7, Maximum State Award Increase Request, Montgomery County Public Schools, Drew Elementary. Laura again.
On March 30th, 2026, IAC staff received a request from MCPS to increase the MSA for Drew Dr. Charles Elementary HVAC Replacement Project to $4,893,350 based on higher than anticipated bids that exceeded the current MSA. The project received its first year construction funding in FY 2025 CIP and currently has a total award of $3,049,200. Since that time, cost escalation for HVAC projects have been significant, and on January 7th, 2026, bids came in higher than anticipated. And an additional $1,844,150 is needed to fully fund the project, which, if approved, is expected to be funded with LEA reserve funds through the FY 2027 CIP at 100% approval stage in May. I will now read the motion, which is to increase the maximum state award for Montgomery County Public Schools Drew Dr. Charles Elementary HVAC project from $3,049,200 to $4,893,350 in accordance with COMAR 1439-8B.
Thank you, Laura. Do I hear a motion to this effect? Mr. Boyd makes a motion, Ms. Everhart seconds. Any discussion on the Montgomery County projects? All in favor say aye or raise your hands. Any opposed? Thank you. Item 8, maximum state award increase request. Montgomery County Public Schools, Matsunaga Elementary. Laura?
Back again. Similar to the last item, we have received a request from MCPS to increase the MSA for Matsunaga Spark M Elementary School HVAC replacement project to $6,281,150 based on higher than anticipated bids that exceeded the current MSA. The project received its first year construction funding in FY 2025 CIP and currently has a total award of $2,831,400. As stated in the last item, cost escalation for HVAC project has been significant, and on March 17th, 2026, the bids came in higher than anticipated. An additional $3,400,049,750 is needed to fully fund this project, which, if this item is approved, is expected to be funded with LEA reserves through the FY 2027 CIP at 100% stage in May. I will now read the motion, which is to increase the maximum state award for Montgomery County Public Schools Matsunaga Spark M Elementary HVAC project from $2,831,400 to $6,281,150 in accordance with COMAR 1439-8B.
For purposes of discussion, do I hear a motion on this project? Mr. League makes a motion, Ms. Everhart seconds. Questions? It seems like an awfully significant increase. I mean, it's almost triple the, well, 2.5 times it. How come this happened? I mean, how can you be that far off, Alex? Can this
Mr. Chair, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. We have had a number of projects of this type come to us recently due to the increases in costs associated with specifically HVAC systems, and in many cases, HVAC system projects that had been estimated in the early stages of funding requests, very much pre-bid before the LEA knew what the market would charge on the project, that had been underestimated. And this is not just a single county's challenge. This has been seen in a number of jurisdictions because of the fluctuation in costs of pretty much every system that's included electronics and to some degree steel, which HVAC is obviously very intensive for both. Longer lead times in addition to the higher costs. So this is not reflective, in my opinion, of some error on the part of the school district. It is that it's been very tough for school district staff to keep up with the changes as they move projects, or projects hold and then now they're moving forward and the market is really in a tougher spot. So this is indicative of a market problem that all the LEAs are suffering from, and it really is posing us some challenges because these projects are requiring increases that are taking funds away from other needed projects that are right behind them in the queue that we're not going to get to funding with state dollars, and same with the local county funding. Does that answer the
Yeah,
question?
I mean, I understand the cost increase. It just seems like this one was off significantly, 2 million to 4 million to 6 million.
Yeah. Laura, is there anything else you can add
Yeah,
about these specific projects?
Just that, the requirements for approving the MSA are really outlined very well in COMARC, specifically on the LEA to defend vote reasonable actions that they have kind of employed to have value management and contain those costs. And then also, specifics that the scope hasn't changed and giving us a hard bid number. Like you said, we're not kind of operating on estimates. This is just kind of a reflection of true market conditions.
Okay. Thank you.
I see two other hands, Mr.
Oh, I'm
Chair.
sorry. Mr. Derenberg.
First, is there any way we can like soften the blow with these things? I mean, like you said, this is a huge increase. I mean, is there tools that we have out there to help the LEAs get better costs or estimates or something? Or like I said, there's limited funds, and it's
No, I absolutely hear you, Mr. Derenberg. The tools we have are just to support the LEAs in doing the best and most in advance project planning and scoping and bid timing strategies as possible. I don't think there's really much the state can do at this point. However, I do see that Mr. League's hand is up, and from DGS perspective, if he has any additional comments on this type of project, I'd be happy to hear them.
well, we collect a lot of data. I was just wondering if the data that we collect, especially from other LEAs, when we go in and say, hey, they have a similar project and they're just going to be
This
twice
is
as
a
much
trend.
short. You want to go back
Mhm.
to that kind of thing where you're seeing 27 districts or whatever they are, 24. And if one comes in that seems a little low, do we have the ability, or do we now let them know ahead of time, hey, this seems not in line with other LEAs that we've.
Yes, we can attempt to do that with our LEA submissions, but the challenge is that we don't want to tell an LEA that the estimate they're making is wrong based on certain data, when it could be that they are actually basing it on what they've been getting locally from their effectively the contractors that they've often had bids from, and it could be that they are getting better pricing than some of the other LEAs. So I mean, there are things pushing in both directions, and it makes it pretty complex. But I wanted to make sure that Mr. Lee can throw in a comment on this, because DGS does do procurement of its own.
Thank you.
Sure.
Courtney.
Great, thank you for the opportunity. A couple things. One, we're seeing similar cost escalations on projects that we have at DGS. So it is an industry-wide thing at this point. Mr. Derenberg, it's a good point. How do you kind of back check the costs as they come in? So we do that. We try to keep historical data, real-time, analysis, looking at market trends as we have estimates come in from for projects that we support on agencies' behalf. That's talking to that issue. The second thing was, are we asking the LEAs, given this current trend in pricing for HVAC in this instance, to go back and just double check their estimates that they might have, that they might be putting together now, to make sure they're incorporating what they're seeing a cost impact into their numbers, so it's not a 2.5 time increase when we get to the place of award. So
Alex, a novice question, but in this bidding process, how does an LEA compile the list of suppliers, contractors? I mean, is there a certain size list they always use, or how widespread is this bid notification? Are there some suppliers that are cheaper? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's pretty varied depending on the region and what the availability of contractors is. Melissa, do you want to add anything about the specific market inclusion approach that helps LEAs reduce this kind of, effect? What's possible on that? Or what's been successful?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to also add a little history on Matsunuga. This predates Laura. It predates all of the current MCPS staff, but MCPS was estimating several HVAC, elementary school HVAC replacements at the same time. And Matsunuga is actually co-located with a special education center. So when it came to the time for estimating, we suspect that the staff isn't here anymore, but we suspect that the estimation was done typical for the elementary school without consideration for the co-located special education center. Just a theory, because the people who did it aren't here to ask. And these increases have been on MCPS's radar for a long time now, and they've alerted us. And we've got preliminary estimates that showed that this project was going to be far over the budget, and they asked for an MSA increase last year, and we requested that they hold off until they get their actual bids, so we didn't end up having to do two MSA increases, because we've seen how even the estimates and in the design phase is still not quite catching up with all of the escalation. So the amount of overage for their estimates is fairly consistent between these two projects, their estimate to their actual bids, and the rest of the projects that we're seeing. So there is a lot of information that MCPS had already had about the initial estimates on this, and the reason why we're here today doing a 2.5 time increase is because we requested that they do it once and not do an increase that resulted from their change of understanding of what the project scope actually was going to entail and their increases in estimate in the early design phases. So that's some nuance for these two projects. As far as industry controls, I think there are more LEAs that do a public bid for open to all available contractors than there are that have some shortlisted contractors. I also think that the LEAs are consistently using cost estimators on HVAC projects now, and not just using the mechanical engineers cost estimate. So we're spanning a time frame right now that involves 3 years of project planning, and I don't think, and we've seen a bunch of these recently because of that. I don't think moving forward we're going to see the same kinds of differences. And I will add that when an LEA asks for funding, they are not trying to overshoot, because they're anticipating what we're anticipating, which is a conservative number, because we have a mechanism that allows them to update the MSA. So we encourage them to remain on the small side on what they ask for us, because it's better to give them more if they run into problems than it is to overfund a project, which means they don't have other projects that get funding. So I think I may have answered 3 questions. Does that help?
Yeah, you added some context to it, so I appreciate your thoughts. Any other questions about this issue? Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Raise your hands. Any opposed? Thank you. Item number 9, FY 2025 and FY 2026 Capital Improvement Program project cancellations and reversions. Montgomery County Public Schools, Springbrook High School, HVAC Phase 1 and 2 projects. Laura again.
Hi there.
Hi.
On March 19th, 2026, IAC staff received a notification from MCPS that the Springbrook High School HVAC renovation project will be delayed because extensive changes are required to the overall project design and scope. In order to realign funding for the new project schedule, MCFPS requested a cancellation of the FY 2025 CIP HVAC Phase 1 project and the FY 26 CIP HVAC Phase 2 project, resulting in $3,158,100 in FY 25 funding and $3,750,000 in FY 26 funding to be reverted to the LEA Reserve Fund. MCPS plans to request design funding in the FY 27 CIP for the full scope of the project, with the remaining reserve funding being awarded to the FY 27 CIP project requests. I will now read the motion, which is to cancel the Montgomery County Public Schools Springbrook High School FY 25 Capital Improvement Program HVAC Phase 1 and FY 26 CIP HVAC Phase 2 and rescind project awards totaling $6,908,000 and transfer the rescinded funds to the LEA reserve account.
Thank you. For purposes of discussion, do I hear a motion on this issue? Mr. Boyd makes a motion. Ms. Eberhardt seconds. Any discussion on this reversion request? All in favor of the motion, say aye or raise your hands. Any opposed? Thank you. Item 10, FY 2023 Capital Improvement Program Rescission Request, Prince George's County Public Schools, H. Winship Wheatley. Lisa? Hi, Lisa.
Good morning, and good morning, Madam Vice Chair and members of the Commission. The HVAC project at H. Winship Wheatley Early Child Care Center in Prince George's County was awarded funding through the FY 2023 Capital Improvement Program on May 11, 2022. PGCPS has informed IAC staff that due to recent changes in the county's permitting requirements, the scope of work has increased above and beyond a discrete systemic replacement. The changes directly alter both the project cost and the project classification. Therefore, PGCPS has requested to cancel the project, rescind the awarded funding, and transfer the funds to their reserve account to be used on an eligible project in the FY 27 CIP. I will now read the motion, which is to cancel the FY 2023 Capital Improvement Program Award for the Prince George's County Public Schools H. Winship Wheatley Early Child Care Center HVAC project, rescind project awards totaling $10,220,000, and transfer the rescinded funds to the LEA reserve account.
Thank you, Lisa. Do I hear a motion?
So move, Mr. Chair, Gloria Lawler.
Yeah, well, we make the motion first and then we can talk about it. Here, you want to make a motion, Senator, first? And we can discuss it. Yes. Senator Lawler makes a motion, Senator Eberhardt seconds. Ms. Lawler, go ahead.
Thank you. I hope that we're all in favor of this. This was unforeseen, and there was a lot of discussion. So I think this is a very good move on the part of the Board of Education in Prince George's County.
Thank you. Any other comments on this motion? Mr. Derenberg.
So I have one question. So this goes in their fund for 2 years, right? 2 years from when we vote on it, or 2 years from when it was awarded?
Laura, do you know?
Oh, go ahead.
Sandra?
I can help with that, Mr. Chair. So it will go into their reserve fund for 2 years from today.
From today. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye or raise your hands. Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 11, FY 2024 Capital Improvement Program Rescission Request, Prince George's County Public Schools, Woodridge Elementary HVAC Project. Lisa?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The HVAC project at Woodridge Elementary School in Prince George's County was awarded funding through the FY 2024 Capital Improvement Program. This project has run into the same concerns as mentioned in the previous motion. Due to the recent changes in the county's permitting requirements that directly alter the scope and budget, PGCPS has requested to cancel this project, rescind the awarded funding, and transfer the funds to the reserve account to be used in this year's CIP. I will now read the motion, which is to cancel the FY 2024 Capital Improvement Program Award for the Prince George's County Public Schools Woodridge Elementary HVAC project, rescind project awards totaling $3,650,000, and transfer the rescinded funds to the LEA reserve account.
Thanks, Lisa. Do I hear a motion to this effect?
So move, Mr. Chair.
And second by Mr. League. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye, raise your hands. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Item 12, proposed COMAR amendments to reference title. Cassandra, you want to comment on this?
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. I'm excited about this item. It is a relatively simple COMAR change. You can see that it's only a few lines, but it's one that could make a significant difference for some of the projects that are funded by the IAC. I just want to remind the members and the public that the IAC estimates the maximum state award for a project all through the design stage. We continuously update that estimate. But the figure becomes set in stone, so to speak, the first time the project is awarded construction funding. So I also want to remind everyone that we cap the amount of project development and design funding that is eligible for state funding at 10% of the estimated maximum state award. Most of the projects that we see are fully designed and then bid, but in some instances, it can be advantageous for an LEA to proceed with an early site work package separately from the construction of the remainder of the renovation. So that work can occur quite a while before the project is fully designed and before construction of the facility actually begins. This proposed change would allow for an LEA to request additional project development and design funding for early site work, and that would have two major benefits. The first and the most obvious is that state funding would immediately be available for that work. But second, it would delay the finalization of the maximum state award until the project is fully designed, which is when the maximum state award can be most accurately calculated. The proposed changes are on page 125 of your agenda. And the motion is to approve amendments to COMAR 14390209 that clarify the circumstances under which an LEA may use project development and design funding for early site work as presented.
Thank you, Cassandra. For purposes of discussion, do I hear a motion to this effect? Mr. Katari makes a motion, Ms. Everhart seconds. Discussion. Any questions about this motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye or raise your hands. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Cassandra. Item 13, adoption of final action, COMAR revisions. Victoria?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the Commission. At the August 14th, 2025 IAC meeting, the Commission voted to approve the proposed changes to COMAR 143902 and 143903, which clarified that the SRC for elementary school students that circulate similarly to middle school students defined exclusions for gymnasiums in high schools and middle schools, defined the number of teaching stations in auxiliary gymnasiums, aligned standards in rescission of funding approval, and specified LEA requirements for MBE program compliance. The IAC passed this motion unanimously. IAC staff submitted this proposal for publication in the January 23, 2026 Maryland Register, and the revisions were published for the requisite 30-day public comment period. IAC staff received no public comment on the proposed change. If approved, these revisions will be official 10 days after publication of this final approval in the Maryland Register. I will now read the motion, which is to adopt the final COMAR revisions as published in the January 23, 2026 Maryland Register, Volume 52, Issue 2, pages 80 through 81.
Thank you, Victoria. Do I hear a motion to this effect? Mr. Lee makes a motion, Ms. Eberhardt seconds. Any discussion about these COMAR revisions that we are seeking final approval? All in favor say aye or raise your hands. Any opposed? Thank you. Item 14, legislative update, Vicki and Cassandra. Victoria and Cassandra.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the Commission again. Today, we are able to provide updated information on several legislative items of note that are most likely to impact the IAC. Of the notable bills mentioned at the March IAC meeting, several have had subsequent hearings in the opposite chamber. This includes the IAC's departmental bill, which is Senate Bill 48, which had its hearing in the House Appropriations Committee on April 2nd. The only bills impacting the IAC that have passed both chambers at time of writing are the state's BRFA, or Budget Reconciliation and Financing Act of 2026, which included a section that would permit the IAC to reallocate federal funding awarded from fiscal year 2022 and 2023 for HVAC upgrades to public school buildings to ensure compliance with the provisions of the American Rescue Plan of 2021, and the capital and operating budget bills that Alex mentioned earlier on, which we'll be giving a full presentation on at the May IAC meeting once session has concluded. Remaining bills, as mentioned at the March IAC meeting, are still moving through the opposite chamber, and we will inform you on whether they've passed both chambers at the May IAC meeting.
Can you just tell us about the bill that still hasn't, was it Senate Bill 48? Did you first talking about that's still under consideration? Can you just review what that does, Alex?
Sure, Mr. Chair. Senate Bill 48 is the IAC's departmental bill. It includes adjustments to the statutes that some of the statutes that pertain to IAC operations, as well as adjustments to a couple of statutes that control MSDE activities for school construction projects and DGS activities because of the interagency nature of our three agencies' work together. Effectively, it makes a number of modernizations, updates to take into account other statutory changes by the General Assembly over the last few years. It streamlines and clarifies some of the requirements around assessments and around funding and transfer of facilities to counties when they're surplus from school districts, and reporting changes so that we are better able to meet reporting deadlines to the General Assembly. All the items that we reviewed back in the fall with the departmental bill report, and then in a couple of recent meetings. So if there are any other questions, say again.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure the members are aware of what that bill does. It's sort of important to us. The other issue, just to, I don't know if you want to comment on, I don't know if it's was in the budget or was a bill, the charter issue, charter school issue. Was that finalized?
No, Mr. Chair, it is not finalized yet. It's a separate bill, House Bill 1430 and Senate Bill 960, which would create a new program to provide some state operating dollars annually to charter schools for capital improvements, to help them with capital improvements, lease and rent payments, and debt service payments only. That bill is still in the Senate right now. It may have a hearing again this week, today or tomorrow. I'm monitoring it closely and have had discussions with committee staff about it to provide information on how it could be most easily implemented. And I will update you as soon as we hear what happens with the bill.
So if it would pass, though, it calls for us to oversee the program, correct?
Correct. It would add this as a new program the IAC would administer and make payments to charter schools so that they could apply them to their costs on the capital costs and debt service on the facilities.
Ms. Everhart.
Is that additional money?
It is additional money over and above the regular per student allotment that the charter schools get from their LEA. It would be in the current draft $200 per student per year, unless the school is receiving a capital improvement project funding through the CIP, which is very rare. And if the school is receiving such a project, then their per student allotment under this program would be suspended for the years while the project is happening, so that they don't get two supporting allotments for the same project work.
And is this both for leased and charter schools that are in public school buildings also?
Yes.
And would this have to come through the public school system?
No.
Directly.
It would be direct to the charter schools, according to the bill.
And they would be requesting directly from us, not
Yes.
through facility people.
Correct.
And did it pass this house already?
There is a House bill that was amended, and it's a little bit different from the Senate bill, so those two have to be reconciled. I believe the committees are discussing those right now.
By Tuesday.
Yeah.
Thank you for being able to respond to that on the fly. I know you weren't prepared for that question. Any other questions about any issues?
Mr. Chair, if I might, I'd like to just make one more additional comment about the HVAC projects we spoke about earlier. These agenda items help show that the need out there for HVAC improvements is huge. And the capital funding available against that level of need is really not sufficient. And I want to make a couple points about this. First, the recent budget bill restrictions on the COP Priority Fund, which would have been under existing statute, a competitive grant program open to projects from every LEA. The recent budget restricted those funds to just a few LEAs, which will hurt the chances of the rest of the LEAs in getting some funding for their urgent HVAC. So what those changes have done is further exacerbated the shortfall of available capital funding for HVAC projects around the majority of the state. And one might think, well, goodness, if we need more money for HVAC, then maybe we need a new HVAC funding program. And I would argue that another special program limited just to HVAC is not necessarily the best solution if it encourages LEAs to focus on just HVAC replacements at the expense of doing more fiscally sustainable full replacement projects that would address both HVAC deficiencies and all the other existing deficiencies in their facilities. So again, I will continue to provide data to the General Assembly, noting the broad scope of the need out there, which, yes, in the HVAC category is very, very large. And we can see the costs, right? Just take what we've seen today in cost increases and imagine that applied to all the rest of the HVAC projects out there. The price tag is mounting, but we still have to make sure that we are doing the needed projects to address the other problems in the facilities and not just HVAC projects. So happy to answer any other questions on that. I just wanted to underscore, though, that that this is something that I will continue to focus on with the General Assembly in coming months between now and the next session.
Yeah, something we have to talk about with them and put forth our concerns.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other issues anyone wants to bring up before we adjourn? Do I hear a motion that we adjourn? Mr. Katari makes a motion. Good to see you. Mr. Derenberg seconds. All in favor, say aye. Okay.